today we have Randeep from US, and he is the recipient of the AICPA Watt Sells Award, which is the famous one for scoring above 95.5 as an average and score a CPA first attempt. And we all know that it is really very difficult to score such percentile, and I'm extremely honored to interview Randeep today. And with so many questions of students being lined up, I know I'll be asking plenty because if I just want to tell the scores of it's like FAR 97 and BEC 97, audit 95, REG 96. These are the scores of this champion who's from India. Welcome to Simandhar Education. And so, how was your journey from starting from India to US? What brought you to US? And how did it all play around actually?
Yeah, hi. I'm glad to be part of this video conferencing, and I don't know, like, I'm just hoping that even if it helps one student, that'll be good enough for me. And I just want to say that, like, the reason why I moved to the US in the first place was family immigration. Like, my family, we've had green card since 2012, but at that time, I was still studying for my CA exams in India. I'd done my intermediate level, but yeah, and I was studying for CA final, so I didn't want to leave all that in between, and I really wanted to get my chartered accountancy done. So, and post my qualification, I continued to work for Grant Thornton and in Chandigarh in their audit division, and that experience in itself has helped me immensely professionally in the US as well. Um, and I moved to the US in 2017, early 2017 in February, and I didn't have a job, so I do have some extended family from my mom's side, and I've been lucky enough that I've had the support when I moved here. And I came here, and then I started applying to various jobs just to get a kickstart. Uh, um, like in accounting and anything, uh, and then I got a reference in Anderson through a mutual friend, and and I always wanted to uh, try as a tax professional, so I had to make a decision to transition from audit to tax, but I thought maybe it is the perfect opportunity since I kind of had to start afresh in the US professionally. So I took up tax and I'm really liking it. And yeah, so it's been a great journey so far.
So we also know that you're a qualified chartered accountant, and then you move to US because a lot of them have a misconception that C is not recognized outside India. What is your take on that? Because we want the students to have a very good view on this. There's a lot of the coaching institutes that try to tell in India that CA you can't do it, and I think you still got a job there. But then my guess on that, or my understanding, is that to progress in the career, I think CPA is quite important in US. So, what's your view on that, and how do you kind of rate this question?
Okay, so there are two things to this, right? So I wouldn't say that if anyone has done CA that it's not useful. I think one of the main reasons why I landed with a job was my experience as like working as an auditor in India, and I couldn't have worked as an auditor without being a chartered accountant, right? And so that work experience was one of the main things which my future employer at that time, like, they were impressed with my resume. So, and and I was also a rank holder at intermediate level in India. So
Fantastic.
that that was and my employer was impressed with that. So it's not only CA, but it's education at any level or your professional experience at any level. You don't know where it's going to help you in the future. So everything counts. Um, that's as straightforward as it gets. And yeah, so but the other part is that so having done CA, I don't know. I think like few countries have a tie-up with ICAI.
Yeah.
Like at least I know for the fact that Australia does, because one of my ex-colleagues from India, he moved to Australia and he didn't have to give all the exams in Australia. I think he just sat for one exam and then he got their license. But uh, AICPA does not have that tie-up with ICAI, so you still have to take all the exams. But I just want to say that like people who've sat for CA exams in India, I think they're more rigorous in terms of the amount of hours we have to put, and at least the like the lengthy exams which we took. So if you've gone through that, like you should do well on CPA. Think so.
Okay. The third question is, some of the students who are asking me is the BCom. So if I'm a graduate, do you think can I excel in CPA? What's your take? Because the CPA exam, is it like only because if you're a chartered accountant or a CA inter, it really helps, or if he's a graduate also, can he excel in that particular?
I think you need minimum credits to sit for CPA exams and eventually get a license, right? So first, I think that student has to check if they have enough credits. So assuming they have credits, I think if you like study honestly, and I've my employer Anderson, they have a tie with Becker, so I only studied Becker's material. I didn't refer a single book out of that. So I just did their multiple choice questions, the task based simulations, or doing the mock test before the exams, which was really important, how to time my exam. And that's it. And I didn't do anything. So if you do an honest job and you study on a regular basis, you have a set schedule, I think that's fine. I don't see any challenge if a person who's not a chartered accountant and only holds a bachelor degree, that they shouldn't be doing well on the CPA exams.
Ratna, one more, the second, almost the fifth question now. So this is like, what was your study strategy? How many hours you used to? Because a lot of the student ask me, sir, how many hours we should study in a day? So do you think, is it the quality or is it the quantity which is important? Because these are the questions which keep coming to me also, that how many hours in a day one should study? Because you have been the top scorer. I think the acceptance will be more if the answer comes from your end rather than me.
Okay. I think at the end it does. I think the number of hours, they do matter up to a certain extent, but not always. So just from my like my student life, I've always put in more hours. That's how the nature of my studying is. I just don't feel confident enough if I myself think that I've not put in many hours. But having said that, I've had my fellow batchmates at various levels in schools, colleges, they were able to score more than me or equal by putting in less hours. So it's an individual to individual thing. So I don't think so I can generalize that. But uh, for my CPA exams, uh, I've taken these exams while I was working full time in the US. So uh, so when I moved here, my wife was still in India, so uh, I'd taken up this challenge that before she moves here, I just want to clear these exams so that like then she doesn't have to deal, because she'd already dealt with my CA exams there. Um, then I just after work, I just used to study for 2 to 3 hours every day. And then when the examinations came closer, I I just used to take a one holiday, and especially sorry, so on weekdays maybe 2 to 3 hours, and then on weekends you probably put like 6 hours every day. Oh, sorry, both Saturday and Sunday. So that was it. And when the exam came closer and I had my date set, uh, I just took one day off before the exam and the examination day, and just like try to uh, go through everything in a single day. That's it. So it was weekdays 2 to 3 hours, weekends 6 hours. That's it.
So what was the duration? I mean, how many months you completed the CPA exam?
So I took longer. So there is a reason for that. So the US, the tax season. So we have like our thing called busy seasons. So the tax filing deadlines is April 15th here, and then taxpayers get an extension for another 6 months, and then there is another busy season in October. So no one says anything, but the way the nature of a work is that you really can't like study much or efficiently from say February to 15th April, or from August to 10th or 15th of October. So these are the two windows where I couldn't. So I just timed my exams in the sense that I can study and take them during my non-busy season. So for example, I took my so okay. So strategizing for the exams is important. I don't know. Everyone feels comfortable with different subjects. So I would say that take the first exam should be the one which you consider which is the toughest for you,
Mhm.
because the amount of like hours which you have to put in, I think according to AICPA, you need to put most of your hours for FAR. That has the most syllabus. So that is the one I took first. That's what most of my coworkers are doing here also. But some consider audit to be hard, so they take audit, because the key is that you don't fall in that trap of 18 months after you clear the first exam. Because I've seen people here that they cleared one exam, they couldn't clear the remaining three in 18 months, and they had to retake one or two exams. So that is, I think, no one should be falling in that trap. Then, yeah, so I just took FAR, and then I like BEC is comparatively easy, right? So I took BEC in next like a month and a half, like studying for a month, and then it was my busy season. I took audit in November, and then it was again my busy season. Then I finally took reg in following June. So that's how I did it. But I've seen people who have like who've taken exams while not working. So you can literally, I think, realistically, if you want to do well, so there are two things, right? So if you like, some people study just to get 75. They say that like, oh, we just need 75 to pass, and there's like, it's fine. So they'll they'll kind of like strategize their workload or their study time accordingly. For me, to be honest, I never thought I'll win this award, and I never studied uh, to win this award. So I just studied how I studied for my CA exams, because I just want to be well prepped. Yeah, so that's why some people would argue that I kind of put in more hours than I should have been, and yeah, they kind of make fun of me at office that, oh shit, why did you do so much? Well, that's fine. That's part and parcel.
So it's like
Uh,
almost you have taken a year, I guess. So 1 year is what I would say is
Yeah, so I yeah, within 1 year, if someone is not working full time, you can easily do the CPA exams. So you can actually take yeah, so two exams per 6 months. That's totally doable. I think some people I've seen people doing having done them quicker also. So, but 1 year is, I would say, it's it's the apt time to get all four parts done.
okay.
Yeah.
Coming to the section wise strategies, first is the financial accounting reporting, which is FAR. So, what
Hmm.
is the strategy? Because FAR, I hear from my student that sir, it is so tough, the content is so much, I can't remember this much content. What is your take? I mean, FAR, what was the strategy? Did you start from the governmental accounting first, or did you start from the accounting, which is the beginning of the financial? introduction, the balance sheet and all, or did you test your strategy in preparing the FAR? What are the top
Okay.
which you did in?
Uh, for all the parts I've taken, I've just like followed the Becker's module, like the sequence, right? So I didn't like pick up a certain topic before, because for some of the like for example, for FAR state and government, right? Like I didn't know anything about it. It's like predominantly US, right? So like most of the stuff like FAR, yeah, the beginning topics, they were kind of like easier in the sense that like, yeah, we've studied at various levels in BCom or CA. I kind of just wanted to go with the flow from the first module itself, because uh, it was a while after I was getting back to studies again. I had a gap since I had taken my CA final exams, and now I was sitting for my first CPA exam. So I just wanted to go with the flow and just kind of get used to before I get to the topics which I don't know at all. Because by that time I would have a set schedule of studying. So that was for me personally. But uh, I think for FAR, I would say uh, one thing is that, yeah, there is a lot to cover. And I think no one should feel scared that they're forgetting, because I think when you sit for the test and you've gone through the course material, like, and I've like the way I scheduled my exam was, I made sure that I've gone through the coursework at least 3 times, by reading again and again. Uh, and one of the things which is quite helpful is that in Becker's you can mark your MCQs, right? So whenever I did a chapter or a module, and I took the MCQs, whichever I used to think that this MCQ has a really good point, I used to mark them, right? No matter if I've like like I've answered it correctly in the first go or not, I used to mark them, so that like at the end I only look at those MCQs. I don't have to go back and go through all the MCQs, because that wouldn't be like I won't be utilizing my time as efficiently I should be. So marking the MCQs was really important. And I would recommend like no one should pick any topics. They should study everything, because you don't know from what topic. Yeah, like there is a certain benchmark that, yeah, certain topics would be tested 10 to 20%, but on your bad day that can be 20% instead of 10%. So you should be studying everything. And 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 you'll like everything, like it's with every exam that everyone feels that, oh, they're forgetting. And I felt the same, that, oh, maybe I don't read that. But when I really open that book, and then everything comes back, and that would happen on the examination day. So you just have to be a bit more confident when taking the exam. And that's logical that like you might not be able to recollect one or two things, but that's fine. That's you need that kind of like margin of error. And you just have to keep on moving ahead in the exam, because uh, one thing in the CPA exams is that, which is kind of different from the CA exams we take in India. I don't know now if they've changed the structure, but once you close a testlet, you can't go back in the CPA exam. So you can't really say that, oh, maybe this question is like, I know this question better. Maybe I can spend more time on it so that I can score well. You can't do that, because you just have to like divide your exam in according to the weightage of that testlet, and just keep moving forward, because you don't know the last testlet. It might be the toughest one, which you might get, or it might be the easiest one. So that's just like, you just have to divide the exam and keep on moving, no matter like if you've done bad in that testlet. Because if you devote more time on a particular testlet, you might be losing time for another testlet, and so which would not be beneficial in scoring well on the CPA exam.
So far, I think you suggest that because the students have the Becker material, they follow the Becker, the book, the MCQs, the mock test, and because a lot of them have so many queries, Roger, Ninja, or some Wiley and all. So I have seen a lot of students getting distracted of that because they think Becker is not sufficient. So let us substitute with Wiley, Glim, Roger, and all sort of stuff. What's the take on
Uh,
stick to Becker
like
or try to refer some books?
so, I'm just talking about myself personally. So, because my employer had a tie with Becker's, I really did not refer anything else, right? So I can't comment on what others uh, like how Rogers or other service providers which you've mentioned. So because I haven't looked at their coursework at all, so it'll be like I can't say that oh maybe no they're not as good as because I have not seen it, so it won't be right on my part to comment on that. They might be good on their own. Their coursework also might be good, but just like I felt that like if you studied Becker's, that's what I did. If you've just done an honest work, I think that's good enough for you to score well on the CPA exams. Like for all my four courseworks, I didn't use anything else other than Becker's material. So what I just did was do the MCQs. Yeah, I made like self my own notes
Mhm.
because that's my habit uh, uh, through my study days. So I had like a Word document. Uh, I made notes like for every part of CP exam and then every testlet. That like I'm like especially for task-based simulations because MCQs you can mark them and you can go back, but for testlet once you do like I don't know if something has changed right now, but you can know that like where you did wrong like you can't mark a I don't know like you can't mark a test like a particular part. So I used to like make notes that if this is a big test like where I did wrong, like which specific section of that test led. So I made kind of those notes, and at the end I just used to go through my notes and yeah, that was it.
uh, Ratna is audit because the second subject which I'm talking about after FAR is audit because audit I have seen a lot of the folks failing there and that is considered to be one of the tougher section even some of the chart accountants couldn't clear that section. Is there something which is very fishy and a lot of them come closer to 74 and then don't score in audit? What was your preparation for audit? Because that is something everyone want to know the important topics or something like which is really tough and which is very important for students to do it when they are preparing for audit. Because far I know it's governmental accounting. You have plenty of questions from F8, F9, F10. You have journal entries and all. But for audit, not many of them are able to understand what is that which can be a kind of preparation for them and make them clear. Because every MCQ they find the answers as same, the choices look similar, so they are like
Hmm.
what is happening in order to me. I mean, and they come out after the center, they said, oh, this is absolutely awesome, ego, and then they get like again they get 74. So there's something which is missing from the students' part on audit, especially.
Um, yeah, I've had like coworkers here who've struggled with audit exam, and I've heard that bit. So for me, there was nothing different I did, um, like while preparing for audit as compared to other parts I took. So it was the same pattern I followed, making notes and everything. Uh, but I think in one of the CPAs, one of the instructors, the Becker's instructor, they say that uh, I think like a lot of students, what they do is that they tend to overthink when they study, when they take when they answer an MCQ. I, in audit, I think I would say every MCQs there are two answers which you would get confused between. Like there might be three, I don't know, but mostly in my case, like I used to get confused between two answers. And I think that instructor's advice helped me in the sense that, and he gave that during a normal lecture, that you shouldn't like overthink. Like once you read the MCQ and you like, because like the CPA exam is so fast paced, you have to keep on moving, right? So once you read the question and you see the options, what you think is the best answer, I think you should go for that. But if you like sit on that MCQ and you keep on like thinking again and again between, then the more, obviously you need like certain amount of thinking to answer the exam, but then there is a limit that like you shouldn't be overthinking. So uh if like having studied the material, I think you should be you can figure out an answer, like which one is the correct one between those two. So it's just like reading the course work again, and maybe like if someone is not like uh, comfortable with audit, like I think there is no shortcuts. So you just maybe like do it once more, like read the coursework once more, practice the MCQs and the task-based simulations. Uh, for me, like audit, I was because I had done it practically in India, because I had audited companies and I had drafted audit reports and the kind of opinions we give. I think uh, I can say that like it was not that hard what my coworkers thought. So uh, yeah, so I don't know if my answer is like is super helpful for people here, but just like I just studied the same way as other parts, and yeah.
That's an extremely valid point because audit, a lot of them try to overthink, and they're like the moment you think more, you get three, four options as the probable answers, and then you're completely confused and you end up making the wrong choice. So I think audit, guys who all are watching out here, audit is something where you don't need to overthink, and whatever you feel is right, and you just go ahead and trust your instincts and kind of answer that option. Right. So now for BEC, one student, she says that she's not at all able to recollect the chapter 1 and 6, which is IT and the corporate governance, and she feels that BEC, the moment the content is something which she's not able to remember more, especially with the chapter 6 and chapter 1, which is a corporate governance and information technology, the ID stuff, which is very heavily loaded. What do you think? BEC is there any shortcut for BEC, or it's like no, you'll just need to follow the same way what you're doing it for far and audit, read the entire material, go through it each and everything, or how is it like?
Yeah, like I didn't like leave any topic, so it's just like I think if you read the same thing for the third time, you get more like you'll understand it.
That's
That
you
so
have
that
did a three-time revision, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah. So I think every time I would pick up something new, uh, and especially like I don't know, when I did my CA final exams, we had this exam called ISCA, and that was the toughest for me, to be honest. And yeah, and it's the same. Like it's just like I'm not an IT person. I'm an accountant, so I don't understand certain things. But it's just like you just have to cram them up. Simple as that. So, and the more you read, I think the more familiar you would get, and just do the MCQs again for that part, and and then you'll do well.
then the last one comes the regulation. So reg, did you
Hmm.
do some charts or did you draw any summary notes or something in regulation? Because reg also there's too much of content like far. And is there something which you have done special for reg? Like did you do some charts or basis related questions, C corp, S corp? I know you were working in Anderson in the tax profile itself, which could have added some kind of clarity to understand this section. But what is your overall take on regulation exam, which is considered, at least in my view, I found that very, very tough, to be honest. So, what's
Okay.
your?
So I think the Becker's instructors. So one thing which I failed to mention before was whatever the instructors they like ask, they ask me or like everyone when I watch the classes to underline and make those small notes. I think that was really helpful for me,
Mhm.
like underlining the important thing which they actually, because when you revise, like those are the things which you've written by your own hand. I don't know, I feel more comfortable with my own handwritten notes. I'm kind of a bit old school in that respect. So
I also believe that because writing is equal to 5 times reading. That's the
yeah, so like if you made your own notes, or like yeah, or the notes which the instructors ask you to make during the chapter, uh, I think that is really helpful. So those were my notes, and apart from that, which I've already told you that I made like every module wise module notes, where I think in my first or the second like when I did the coursework for the first time, or maybe the second time, I wasn't scoring that well, right? So, like, maybe just narrowing your focus. If, like, if you think that like you've studied the coursework once and you were able to like do questions uh, like certain questions well in the first go, right? And you are being honest to yourself and you know that it wasn't a fluke from your side, that oh, I just like clicked it and oh, okay, it's right, I'll move on. But that you shouldn't be doing that, right? You should be marking that question that okay, maybe I got it right, but I didn't know it was right. So there is a difference, right? So then, like, you should be reading that part of the coursework again and know that, like, what is actually the basis behind that answer. And and yeah, like just marking those questions and making these self notes, what the instructors say, uh, that helped me. So yeah, that's correct that like I'm working as a tax accountant here, but I normally don't do everything. So there were like certain parts of the exams which are like estates, trust, and all that. I haven't worked that much in that area, so that was also new for me.
point.
So it just, but they won't. I don't think so. They test you on code sections and all that. It's just like you have to understand the code section. So taxation in the US is different than what it is in India because we have a federal and a state structure here. Uh, but yeah, but just follow the study material and you should be fine.
But
And
I just forgot to ask in BEC, what
mhm.
are your tips on written communication? Because that is one area people feel that what can they do different and all. Is it like if their English is not good, so they are a goner in that case? What was your thing to practice on written communication? How did you practice that area?
uh, the way I practiced was so I like in the task-based simulations, right? We have the written ones in Becker. So I just printed all their answers, like the physical printouts,
Okay.
and what was the question, and I just try to understand like how they structure an answer, because I think structuring an answer, you can just go round and round
Mhm.
in your answer, and you don't make a point, and you won't score well. So I would say that like that helped me, like because I also didn't know like oh how to write, right? And the last time I wrote kind of an essay was back in school. So during my board exams or like whatever we've done, right? So
Do
11th or
you
12th.
use
So
authoritative
sorry.
literature also, Ratna? In when you were solving the simulations, do you think authoritative literature play a very big role? The keyword search, the advanced keyword.
Uh, I didn't refer the literature apart from there are certain task-based simulations where you have to see the code section, right?
Yeah.
So that you have to write because no one can cram up the entire internal revenue code. Then you'll be a superstar already. So uh, then for that, like yeah, you have to like open the literature and like searching for the keywords is important. And yeah, it comes with practice. Like with the first two, like task-based simulations I did for those kind of like simulations, like I really didn't know where I was looking at, but there are like always one or two keywords in every question, uh, and uh, and after you've done a task-based simulation, even if you've scored like badly, I think the review is really important because the review is what would set one apart, is how you learn from your mistakes, right? And that's where your self notes come. So like I've done like some of the task-based simulations where I don't know, like I used to attempt the whole task with simulation and I used to close it and it used to say only 50% complete. And I used to like, oh shit, I scored really bad in this one. So it's just like going through each and every answer again and making those self notes and just, and yeah, because it's not that like an entire task-based simulation would get repeated in a CPA exam. So like maybe one part of that PBS would help you.
I
Maybe that can help you in MCQs as well. So yeah.
I think the ideal strategy would be whenever you're doing wrong in simulations, you find out where you have done wrong, write down in the book, make a note of that mistake, and that is how you want to take it up. So, whenever we are doing a simulation, if we are doing it wrongly, we need to understand which area we have done wrongly, record that in the book also, and just make a note of that and refer that again as well.
Because like depending upon what kind of task or simulation you're doing, like they can be lengthy, right? So it's not that you would get the entire task or simulation wrong. It might be like one or two parts of it. Uh, so just like make a note of that, like what you got wrong, and then when you like do it for the second time, just focus on that aspect because as I said earlier, that if your things get right in your first attempt and you know that it's not a fluke, then you'll get it right on your exam day as well. Uh, but like there are the things that which you haven't been getting right, you need to like practice on, and yeah, making those notes would help. Like it helped me, so uh, I'm sure like I don't know, it can help someone else also.
So in written communication, you used to take out the physical printout of that particular thing and then see how they have written
Yeah,
that.
so I just used to see like how they've structured an answer, right? Because uh, the same written question won't get repeated in a CPA exam. It's just like if there is a certain question, it's just like how they answer, how they structure. Because I think in this AICP also they're looking for some keywords, right? That you need to like uh, focus on those keywords
Mm,
during your answer, like because they're mainly based on economics, I think,
mostly, I think.
if I can remember correctly. So then yeah, so
So I
like
think we should use
structuring an answer is important.
like if there's a question between NBV and IRR, so you'll need to take out some keywords or some important advantages of
Yeah,
NBV and IRR.
exactly, right.
Crucial
Yeah,
points which we are putting up in the simulation, I think that should suffice it, right?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So now when we are talking about, so one very, very popular question from all the students is, which is the one which should I write? Is FAR and audit a good combination, or is it a regulation and BEC good combination? Or is it like there is no combination, the area which you are strongest at, start with that section, but then there is one school of thought that if you write FAR first, because you'll have 18 months of time to complete the other three, so a candidate who got completely confused. Now, what is your take? So, this is a section which one should write for.
So yeah, so it's totally an individual choice, but the way, at least because like everyone at our office, like we're taking exams while working full time, so we kind of like help each other in strategizing the exams. So what we think is that like you should take the toughest exam you think first, because then you'll have 18 months to clear three easy exams.
Right. So that means
So
FAR or regulation should be the first ideal one, or even the audit would be the first, and
yeah,
then
like so that depends upon an individual's choice, right? So what they think that they're not like comfortable at all. Like the most I've seen struggle people here is with either FAR or audit. Uh, those are the two main exams which I've seen people struggling. FAR for the only reason that the amount of the content is there, right? Uh, like you said before, like people uh, they get challenged in retaining what they've read. So that is the reason for FAR and audit being a bit more technical. Yeah. So you take either one of them depending upon how you feel about those exams, and then I think uh, then maybe like after you've done one tough exam, it's a good idea to take the easiest the next, because once you've taken your toughest exam and you've cleared it, and then you take the easiest, then you'll just feel confident, and because then you'll know, oh, I'm 50% through, and it's just like two exams to go now. So so the way I did it was I did FAR, I did BEC, then I did audit, and then last I did reg. Yeah, one of the main reasons why I did reg last was because the US tax laws changed uh, end of 2017, and I didn't want to read the old stuff, so I was just waiting that I'll take the exam at the last so that I have the updated material.
The last question of today, I think it was a superb time. I am having, I don't know how many of them will take this up because there are so many vital and important points which you have shared today, whether it be written communication, whether be recording the notes, or whether be noting the or marking the MCQs in the software and making a note of that. So there are so many things which at least the students are taking away from this. One last question, at least from my side. What are the top three things students should do in order to get the highest marks? Or I would say
Uh,
pass.
I don't know, just study, study, study.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think three times you have said studies, and I know that you have done three times your revision as well. So that's a fine.
But I wouldn't say that like that's a benchmark in any way, right? Everyone's study schedule is different, so I felt comfortable. And yeah, taking the mock exam is really important. So everyone should take a mock exam, the one in Becker, because that's exactly what you'll get in the real exam. And you should do a mock exam, and you should do maybe a 10 or 15-minute break which you get just to get a real picture of how it will be. I think, yeah, I, I'd like whoever takes CPA exams in our office here, like I highly recommend them to take mock exam.
There are actually just to add on that question because a lot of them get very less marks in mock, and then when they eventually the exam comes, they get higher. So is there
Yeah, so uh,
very tough?
that's the same for me. I don't know, like I think Becker's like mock exams, I think they've been tough on me than the real exams. Uh, I've normally scored between 80 and 90 on the mock,
Okay.
but in the real exams I've scored more. So, uh, but like they do help you, and yeah, no one should feel like demotivated if they've not scored that well. Like obviously, if someone scores a 50, then it might not be a wise choice to take the exam in 2 days, right? Then you can probably like reschedule the exam. But then if you're like scoring above 75 uh, on the mock, and 75 to even 8 till 85, then I think you'll normally do well in the real exam, unless like someone has a nervous breakdown or something,
Mhm.
which can happen to anyone. So you just have to be confident. You should know that this is that's the best you've done, and you've done an honest. You've put in a good amount of time, which is recommended, and yeah, just be confident when you take the exam.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ratna. I think we had a fantastic time. It is so detailed. I know this is one of the videos where students will concentrate very, very hard and understand each and every line what you've spoken today. And I think they'll make a note of your interview for sure. All those points which
Uh,
you have spoken about, and I think it will be really, really helpful also for the students, I think if they can take up at least 10% or 20% of this interview, and that is how it would be. And any last tips for the CPA students which you would like to give before they give their exams now due to the COVID? Do you think the jobs are going off, or because there's so much negativity surrounding? Any last few tips which you'd like to give it up and close this interview?
Uh, no, sorry, I didn't get like you were saying jobs are going off. I
Yes.
didn't get that.
So we see
Like
that
because of the macro factors right now.
yeah, so they are concerned more on job environment, the pandemic which have come. So a lot of
Yeah,
them are kind of very scared whether they should focus on the CPA exam. A lot of them are losing their focus as well. And what are the things I think which you would tell to them so that they are focused on their exam and not just get worried about the continuous scheduling of the exam and prometric getting closed, getting opened. So it's creating a lot of
I
students.
I think now you can take tests in India as well, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's
yeah, yeah.
actually the CPA exam which is happening in India, and that is the reason why I think there's so much of excitement among the students. But at the same time, they are like worried: will there be a sustainability? Will there be jobs also following the CPA course? And how do you read this entire
But
picture?
that's okay. I would just like to add there that like this thing is everywhere, right? It is affecting everyone right now, and I'm sure this is temporary. You guys, everyone has long careers, right? We're just like starting our careers right now. So even if this thing lasts for like another year, no one should feel demotivated. Uh, on a personal background, after doing my bachelor's in India, I went and did my master's in accounting from UK, and I graduated in 2007 2008, and I couldn't find a job in the UK because of the another the housing bubble burst in the US, right? So the global economies they got like uh, hammered, right? There were no jobs, and I wasn't able to land a job. But then, like these are things which are not in your control, right? So you just have to like keep on doing things what you have. And then I came back to India and I did CA, and I was able to get a job, and things improve. It's just like it's just timing. So yeah, for some of us like who are graduating this year, maybe the timing is not good, but this thing won't last for long, right? Once I'm sure they'll come up with a vaccine and things will improve. So just like stay motivated and follow your path which you've already decided. And yeah,
Thank you so much, Ratna. I think this was a fantastic time which we had today. Thank you so much for giving your time. I hope all the students would make a maximum advantage of this. Thank you so much, Ratna. Thanks a lot.
thanks.